Welcome to Superhuman Customs. I'm your host, Stephen Human. On this channel, we just customize action figures, whatever pops into my head. If I've got an extra figure, we're gonna just experiment and see whether it works or not, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, but we're here to have fun. Today, I got this Batman with my Solomon Grundy for 14 bucks for the two of them. So this guy was just kind of a throwaway. I was like, I don't know what to do with him. And then my son was like, hey, you could turn him into Daredevil. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this guy a classic Daredevil. We're gonna try and put the double D on his chest, and we're gonna put the horns and all that sort of stuff. So without further ado, let's take Batman and make him into Daredevil. First things first on this Batman is we gotta remove these ears. So I'm just gonna take a blade, my standard blade that I use to cut stuff, and we're gonna remove his ears. Now I'd thought about maybe seeing if I could keep these for the horns, but I don't think that's gonna work. I think we're just gonna do milliput and add the horns so they kind of poke out a little bit. So I'm just gonna file these down, and then we will move forward with Daredevil. Now I know that all of you have noticed that there is a lot of background noise in my videos, and I can't do much about that. I'm in my office. It's a nice office, I love it, but it is hooked up to the main entryway to my home and the main floor, and my kids run around and play music. My son's playing his guitar right now, and even though the door is closed, you can always pick it up. So I apologize, but that's just life in the human household. And if I had a studio or something, then I could do something different, but I don't. This is my studio, and honestly, it's nice and easy, and I prefer it that way. So yeah, you're always gonna get background noise of children squealing and yelling at each other, and guitar playing from my older children. So there you go. Before we do the milliput, I'm gonna try and remove some of these items. First and foremost, the cape. So I'm gonna go along his cowl here and try and keep that, you know, the shoulder area. And the reason I'm doing this first before we do the milliput is because it might require like a little bit of playing around to smooth it out. So I would rather take that off now. If I need it, then I can mix all the milliput at once and not have to, you know, do 3 different cuts of milliput. But so I'm just gonna cut off this cape, and then I'm going to cut off this symbol once the cape is gone, because then I can have a little bit more access. And I'm just gonna cut the symbol off so that it's a little bit flatter on his chest, and then I'll have to use less milliput to do stuff. So yeah, I'm just gonna cut off the cape and we'll call it good. So we got a little bit of glue in place on his chest and on his forehead. So I've got some milliput here, and I'm just gonna kind of spread it around. I'm trying to get it thin, and so we will kind of get it in place. And I'm just gonna try and stretch it around his pecs so that it covers the whole area. And that's how we wanna get it done. And then I'm gonna take a little bit and I'm going to place it on his forehead with these little dots of glue. And that was probably too much. Let's see if we can do better on this one. And obviously you can mold and you can pull off. I just want to make sure that these are in place. Yeah, they're gonna look weird for right now, but this will give me the base to be able to start molding. So next few minutes, I'm just gonna spread this all over, get it so that it's a little bit more even, and then we'll start putting in the details. And remember, a great way to smooth this out is just to tap it. And if you want to add a little bit of water, it will smooth out the milliput really nicely. So that's what I'm going for right here before I do any other details. Just add a little bit of water to my finger. I'm patting and I'm smoothing it out. And as you can see, it works pretty well and pretty quickly. This is looking pretty good to me. It's nice and smooth. It's looking like his chest. Now, last but not least, I'm gonna take this X-Acto knife and I'm gonna try and form in the D for Daredevil. Now, I could form it up, but I think it would break off too easily. I'm not sure exactly how well it would do, so I think it would be better to put it in. So I'm just gonna try and and get the right line in, and then form the D in just sections. And hopefully this will look right. And if it doesn't, you can mold it out and do it again. The thing is, I gotta have this D come over the middle of the chest in order for the other D to do its thing. So I might have made it a little bit too far over, but we will form it in, and hopefully that will give us exactly what we want. Not perfect, but we'll keep working on it. So I'm just gonna start painting this guy red. I'm gonna start with my base red, and I'm gonna go over all of him. Now, normally what I would do with the Milliput once it was dry is that I would paint it more or less to match these other colors, because I like to put on thin coats of paint, and so the underlying color always affects the top layer. But with this one, where I'm at right now, is I do want to see how it all looks, and I want things to be slightly different colors. So I'm going to check and see, like, what's everything going to look like, you know, once I have these coats on, and then what am I going to make a little bit darker, what contrast. So I kind of want to see what they look like. I forgot to take the arms off. Well, okay. Remember to take the arms off at this point if you're painting everything. I'll pull them off here in just a second, off camera. But I'm going to do a full-on red, and you could spray paint them red if you wanted. That would give you the same effect. I'm just going to paint on this red that I like, and then we will go from there. And obviously, this is going to be a very fun part because it goes very fast, and he starts to look like Daredevil, which is going to be awesome. All right, now we're going to move into the head here. So I've got a really small brush, and first I'm going to start around the eyes. I want to make sure that I get it nice and close and not on the eyes. You might get a little bit, but you can actually chip it off with an X-Acto knife if you get a little bit on the eyes. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this red and I'm going to go over his face, just light dry brush, because as you guys know, flesh tone, skin is very translucent. And so when you put a flesh tone over the top, if you do like a red base and then you dry brush on the flesh tone, it's going to look much better. So I'm just going to dust this on here so that we can get sort of that base. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and we're going to do a wash. Now the thing about a wash is that you want to be able to move it around. So as you can see, it's really dark under here right now, but if I just go through and keep moving it around and dusting it, hitting it with my finger a little bit, then it's going to lighten it up. And obviously we're going to go over the top of this with red, with that lighter air red. And so I can afford to go a little bit darker and in some of these places where I want it to be dark, because that red's going to deaden it. And then right here on the edges, I'm going to go a little bit lighter, just darken it up a little bit. And then again, that red over the top is going to make it so that this is just a little bit more muted. And that's what we want. It's going to look really cool. All right, now here let's dust on this flesh tone. And at first it's going to look a little bit weird, but as you move it around and as you dust it, you'll start to see how it goes on thin over the top. And in this case, the gray flesh tone will add certain shades and the red will add others. So you can kind of get a little feel for it right here. I'm excited for how this guy's going to turn out. Now let's add our model air red. Now this is an airbrush red. For those of you who've been watching the channel for a long time, you know that over my reds, I will do this layer because it's really thin. It goes over beautifully, it sharpens it up, and it really makes it look like it's plastic. Like it doesn't look like it's paint when you add this. I've done characters like Harley Quinn or Red Robin where after doing this, it really does look like they were molded in red plastic. And you'll also see how it starts to deaden some of the wash. And we want to be able to have that be just more toned down. We don't want it to be something that really stands out at this point. We want everything to look natural. And this guy will really start to look natural. Now, one thing I want to do here on the belt and also on his bracers is I'm going to add a little bit of silver. And I'm going to put it on really nice and light, because I want the red to shine through. I want this to look like it's silver, that it's metal that's been painted red. And so by doing this over the top, it'll make it look like it's been scratched a little bit, it's been used, but that it is red. And so if you want to go through here, and you can add dings if you want, you can make it look like it's, you know, that it's been beaten up a little bit. That's personal preference. For me, I'm just going to kind of go over and move this paint around so that it looks like this is still red, but that it's metal, and that, you know, Daredevil's been smacking people with it. All right, what I want to do here is I'm adding a little bit of brown wash, just a little bit. It'll add some different tones to just different areas of Daredevil. You know, it'll make it look like the metal's a little bit weathered, and I can take a little bit and I can actually put it on the face, on the lips, just a little bit. You want to go nice and light here, but it will add a little bit of contrast and a little bit of life to the figure. And these little things really do make a big difference. Okay, now I took a lot of time to go through and make sure that the white of the eyes was perfect, so I actually chipped it away with an X-Acto knife, and then I realized that Daredevil has red eyes. So I'm going to paint him red, but I'm going to use the metallic red that I have. This is a little bit different shade, and so his eyes will look red, but they will look slightly different. And that's important to me because I want these eyes to stand out. I don't want it to look like he's full red. I want it to look original. There we go, from a very blue Batman to a very red Daredevil. This one's really fun. I'm really happy with how he turned out. Now, one thing that you need to know if you're doing it this way is that stuff like the D and the D on the chest is never going to be perfect because obviously I hand sculpt everything. The chest did turn out really nice and very smooth, and it does look like it's plastic, which is what I was going for. But when it comes to the tampo there, that's never really going to be 100% perfect. So if you want to do that, you're going to want to 3D print it. You know, I mean, you could mold it on top with more milliput, but even then it's probably not going to be as perfect either. So if you're looking for perfection, obviously you want to 3D print. You want to do something that's machine made. That's not what I'm into. I like doing this. I like molding with my hands and trying to make it cool that way. Doing it, he turned out great doing it that way. So if you're into this sort of stuff, then start experimenting. You know, you can turn all kinds of fun characters into just something completely different. I'm looking at doing an Apollo. I'm looking at doing a Midnighter, just some fun different things. Since I got that big haul of figures, I've got all kinds of fun ideas to be able to just kind of check out and do interesting things. So we'll see what the coming months bring, but I've got a lot of fodder now. So if you didn't see that short, check it out when I opened up the box. It was pretty cool. So I'm Stephen Human with Superhuman Customs, and I will see you next week with a new custom figure.